tonight. The White House takes on new threats from Iran. This as the British ambassador to the U.S. steps down in the wake of leaked cables. Plus,
it's quite a change, I think, from previous cycles.
Why Democrats are embracing faith on the 2020 presidential campaign trail.
Morgan, Madeline, Mackenzie don't have a mother anymore.
The gun debate heats up. How a divided Virginia is shaping up to be an election year battleground over the Second Amendment.
I do not believe that anyone has a reasonable expectation of privacy in a government ID photo.
And the federal government is using facial recognition to scan hundreds of millions of Americans' faces without their consent. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
Iran sanctions, a cabinet secretary under fire, and fallout over a close ally's characterization of the Trump White House. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup.
And I'm Jenna Browder. Well, a busy day at the White House. President Trump threatening more sanctions against Iran after it increased its production of enriched uranium.
The move comes as tensions rise following Iran's admission to shooting down a U.S. drone. CBN's White House correspondent Ben Kennedy joins us with details. Ben, how is the Trump administration responding tonight?
Well, Jenna, President Trump first warned Iran that it better be careful. Today, he took to Twitter saying sanctions will soon be increased substantially. This after Iran announced it is enriching uranium at greater levels, violating the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. France, Germany, Britain, and the EU are now urging Iran to return to compliance. This week, Vice President Mike Pence said the U.S. does not seek war with Iran, but is prepared to protect itself and its allies. Jenna?
Yeah, Ben, this news comes as the ambassador, the UK's ambassador to the U.S., steps down after comments he made that were not so nice about the Trump administration.
Yeah, Jenna, they were not so nice, and President Trump said he would no longer deal with him. His exit comes after leaked memos revealing the ambassador's private comments of the Trump administration, calling them inept and uniquely dysfunctional. The UK government is now investigating the source of those leaks.
And Ben, a short time ago, Labor Secretary Alex Acosta held a news conference to defend himself amid an outcry over how he handled what some have characterized as a sweetheart plea deal for Epstein. Any plans for him to resign?
Yeah, John, no plans to resign. This after new fallout from multimillionaire Jeffrey Epstein's arrest. Calls are growing, as you were talking about, John, from Democrats and 2020 candidates for Labor Secretary Alex Acosta to step down over his role in brokering a plea deal with Epstein more than a decade ago. Today, Acosta said that the facts are being overlooked on how he handled the plea deal. Take a listen.
The Palm Beach State Attorney's Office was ready to let Epstein walk free. No jail time, nothing. Prosecutors in my former office found this to be completely unacceptable, and they became involved. Our office became involved. The goal here was straightforward. Put Epstein behind bars, ensured he registered as a sexual offender, provide victims with the means to seek restitution, and protect the public by putting them on notice that a sexual predator was in their midst.
As for his current boss, who lives right here behind me, President Trump is standing by Acosta. Today, Acosta says he has an excellent relationship with the president, who wants him to stay on. Jenna?
Thanks, Ben.
All right. Well, it appears Mexico's crackdown on migrants is working. Homeland Security says the number of migrants arrested in June was down 28%. Last month, there were more than 104,000 migrants taken into custody, a dramatic decline from about 144,000 in May. And while the number usually drops during the hot summer months, the count is 11% lower than the same period last year. Still, it marks the fourth straight month in which more than 100,000 people have been caught entering the country illegally, creating a huge strain on Border Patrol and reports of inhumane treatment at overcrowded detention centers.
Well, tonight, new details are emerging about the treatment of migrant children in custody of Border Patrol in Yuma, Arizona. They include allegations of sexual assault of a 15-year-old Honduran girl who claims an officer groped her during a routine pat-down. And a 16-year-old Guatemalan boy who said Customs and Border Patrol agents took away mats and made children sleep on the hard concrete floor in retaliation for complaining about the taste of food and water they had been given. NBC News broke the story about the new allegations after obtaining information from government caseworkers with the Department of Health and Human Services. Earlier reports revealed horrific conditions for children at the El Paso and Rio Grande Valley sectors in Texas.
It is looking more likely the Fed will cut interest rates later this month, potentially the first rate cut in more than 10 years. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell testified on Capitol Hill today, hinting at the lower interest rate as a result of what he called cross-currents or uncertainties like trade tension with China and concerns about the strength of the global economy. Trump has been critical of the Fed, blasting Powell, who he nominated for the job, for failing to help stimulate the economy despite the booming labor market. And Powell's remarks sent stocks up nearly 100 points in morning trading.
Well, the ongoing trade war with China is producing some unintended consequences, like the Bible tax. Book publishers are pleading with the Trump administration to drop another round of tariffs on $300 billion worth of Chinese goods, arguing the proposed tax would apply to Bibles and children's books printed in China. If the tariffs go into effect, publishers would raise prices, which would hurt Christian booksellers, churches, and nonprofits. The head of HarperCollins Christian Publishing said, "We believe the administration was unaware, of the potential negative impact and never intended to impose a Bible tax on consumers and religious organizations."
Well, Democratic Senator Chris Coons, a key faith leader up on Capitol Hill, is challenging his fellow Democrats to be more open about sharing their faith. His latest invitation coming in the form of an op-ed in The Atlantic.
Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson spoke with Coons today about that and why the senator is making this a high-profile subject.
Senator Chris Coons believes Democrats have been too cautious over the years about sharing their faith values and how it influences their political views. Now he believes it's time for a change.
This is an overwhelmingly religious country.
Coons says that while many associate religion with the conservative right, polls show about 3/4 of Democrats identify as religious or somewhat religious.
And since most Americans get through their day, get through their challenges in faith, for us to hide the fact that it's an important part of our lives as Democrats would leave an unanswered question for millions of Americans who would find it hard to be comfortable with us, hard to trust us if they think we are not in some way moved or grounded in faith.
While Coons strongly differs from his conservative colleagues on issues like abortion, he looks for other opportunities.
I personally work for moments where there's common purpose rather than division rooted in our differences in faith.
He believes there are other issues where faith informs and influences his stance.
Working against human trafficking, working on criminal justice reform, working to improve the environment are things that have brought together the whole range of our faith communities across the United States.
While campaigning with his colleague, Senator Sherrod Brown.
And I said I got to know him better when we were in a prayer group, a reflection group together. And I could see, looking out at the audience, dozens of people because that's not something Sherrod ever talks about.
Eventually, Brown changed that stance.
What you did for those who seemed less important, you did for me.
And cited a passage from Matthew on his election night speech.
I think it's valuable to show people our hearts, those of us who are in public service.
Coons has encouraged many 2020 Democrat presidential candidates have already discussed their faith.
It's quite a change, I think, from previous cycles.
Noting quite a few are regulars in the weekly bipartisan prayer breakfast. Coons says if you look back at our nation's history, some of the greatest movements were centrally inspired by people of faith. And he thinks more great work can be done if elected officials would focus more on things that can bring Americans together. Reporting from Capitol Hill, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Thanks, Abby. And here now for more, Julia Manchester with The Hill and CBN News chief political analyst David Brody. David, what do you think about this? Why are Democrats generally pretty quiet on the issue of faith?
Well, because Republicans and evangelicals have really co-opted this. I mean, look, the white evangelicals we hear all about, we cover, they obviously vote Republican. They voted for Donald Trump in big numbers, and it's been that way for a long time. So, I mean, that's been kind of the playing field, and Hillary Clinton didn't play on that field in 2016. Now, they're going to try to change that in 2020, as we're starting to find out, which I think is a good move, by the way. I mean, there's an avenue to be had for Democrats in faith when it comes to the compassion angle. I think Donald Trump's policies, to many of his critics, lack compassion. And if you kind of cloak it that way, that's what Barack Obama did in 2008, and it played very well for him.
Do you think there's enough for Democrats, though, to make inroads?
Well, that's the problem. I mean, the pie is small for them in terms of the progressive, social justice, Christian left. So they're going to have to dig some of those white evangelicals out of the Donald Trump bin. They're not going to get many, but elections are won at the margins, so maybe 1% or 2% could do the trick.
Julia, you covered 2020 for The Hill. Amy McGrath announced yesterday that she raised $2.5 million within 24 hours of challenging Mitch McConnell for that Kentucky Senate seat. How significant is that?
It's so significant because I think it shows how much democratic ill will, if you will, there is for Senator McConnell in Kentucky, and it shows that the Democratic base in that state is fired up. But it's not just Amy McGrath that has really had an amazing fundraising record so far. You're seeing that Mark Kelly, Gabby Gifford's husband, raised $4 million in the first quarter, $4.2 million in the second quarter. Jamie Harrison, who's challenging Senator Lindsey Graham, raised over $1 million during his after a month that he announced. So you're seeing all these candidates really come in with these large fundraising hauls, and I think you're beginning to see Democrats looking at the Senate as something that's no longer something that's out of their grasp. I think they're fired up and ready to go.
Just earlier today, we saw Labor Secretary Alex Acosta give a news conference about this whole Jeffrey Epstein sex trafficking case. Julia, did he help himself here? He's walking on eggshells with this administration.
He's absolutely walking on eggshells, and I don't think he necessarily helped himself, because I think a lot of viewers looking at this were expecting, not from the press conference, but thought he should have stepped down because this seems like such an egregious error, if you will, on his part. I think this is, however, going forward, it seems like the Trump administration has faced a lot of scandal and controversy, but we live in an era where the news cycle moves so quickly. And you still have Ralph Northam and Justin Fairfax, for example, still governor and lieutenant governor of Virginia, in no way equating Jeffrey Epstein with the Northam and Fairfax, but I'm just saying that we live in a 24-hour news cycle that moves so fast that a lot of, our attention spans are so short.
Yeah, can I quickly answer that? Yeah. Because I was watching him in the press conference, and I thought it was and then I said, no, it's not it's really bad. I mean, it was worse than because he had a chance. Caitlin Collins from CNN actually asked him, would you do that same deal today? The answer is no. I mean, it's an obvious answer, especially in today's climate. But instead of saying no, he didn't say that. He started going into page 5 of the affidavit, and he went lawyerly. This was not a time to be lawyerly. This was a time to be a father of teenage girls, which he has, and he wasn't that today, and that's a real problem for him. I didn't think it went well at all. I don't think Donald Trump's going to think it went well either.
Shifting gears a little bit here, there's politics in everything from sports to stores, with Donald Trump talking about Home Depot, and women's soccer. Megan Rapinoe had a message for President Trump. Take a listen.
Your message is excluding people. You're excluding me. You're excluding people that look like me. You're excluding people of color. You're excluding, Americans that that maybe support you.
Julia, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think Megan Rapinoe has definitely made herself known as a liberal, and she has definitely thrown a few punches at President Trump. I don't think she necessarily cares what he thinks about her, but I think looking at this overall issue, I mean, these women are really advocating for feminism and equal pay, and that is something that is inherently, whether you support it or not, that's a political issue. So there is going to be pushback against this, but it really does show the climate in the country going forward, with her remarks and him pushing back against it. So, but, you know, watching the parade in New York City today, you know, regardless of what you think of her remarks or not, it was quite inspiring to watch this group of young women and all these young girls cheering them on. You know, I think this is all done with good intentions, obviously.
David, what do you think when you see that clip?
Yeah, I agree with Julia. I did, when I was watching the parade today, some of her comments, the ones that we can say here on Faith Nation, there were a few that we can't say, but she used the word collaborate, you know, that it's important for both sides to collaborate. Well, if you're going to do that, why is she going to see AOC and Nancy Pelosi? She doesn't need to collaborate with them. She needs to collaborate with the President of the United States, Donald Trump. That's the adversary in her view, and if that's the case, that's the whole idea, to bring people together. It's actually a wonderful opportunity missed by her, because, you know, you have a platform at the White House to really discuss key issues with the President of the United States who you disagree with. Why would you not take it? So I think there is a little bit of a hypocrisy in that. Having said that, you know, boy, they really have put women's issues on the map, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. All right, David Brody, Julia Manchester, thank you both. Well, when we come back, why Virginia is shaping up to be a battleground over the gun control fight.
It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Young people, millennials, are flocking to church.
It's not an exaggeration to say that we love to meet them and that we love to know their stories.
Come home to the Southern Gospel Station from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites. CBN Southern Gospel. Available now at cbnradio.com.
Roman soldiers destroy the Second Temple of Jerusalem. Centuries of eyewitnesses say the temple treasures survived. But where are they?
They went from Jerusalem to Rome, Rome to Carthage, Carthage to Byzantium.
Historians are silent about what happened to it next.
This is a bad omen.
Hosted and narrated by Gordon Robertson.
So does it still exist today?
CBN Documentaries presents a story of mystery.
Where is it?
Calamity. Most of the victims were butchered. And destiny.
The possibility to dig is impossible.
Take a journey to find Treasures of the Second Temple, a CBN Documentaries presentation, coming July 8th.
Welcome back. Well, as the nation focuses on 2020, a battle over gun rights in Virginia could impact the upcoming election.
In addition to recovering from a mass shooting, the Old Dominion state is also home to the National Rifle Association. Amber Strong takes us inside this politically charged debate.
It was over almost as soon as it began.
Senate stands adjourned until November the 18th.
A special session of the Virginia Assembly ended just 30 minutes in. Democratic Governor Ralph Northam called the Republican-controlled legislature together, hoping to consider gun control measures following the May 31st tragedy in Virginia Beach.
Morgan, Madeline, Mackenzie don't have a mother anymore. They join a club that nobody ever wants to be in, and that nobody should have to join.
The governor's agenda includes limiting handgun purchases to 1 per 30 days. And requiring background checks on all firearm sales, rentals, or transfers, including gifts. All things House Majority Leader Todd Gilbert tells CBN News would not have prevented May's tragedy. By his own admission, the governor's proposals would have done little or nothing to stop the Virginia Beach tragedy. Their greatest effect will be to turn otherwise law-abiding citizens into criminals if they don't surrender their firearms, said Gilbert.
Between the Virginia Tech massacre and today, we've lost more than 10,000 Virginians to gun violence.
Chris Brown is the president of the bipartisan Brady campaign and an advocate for increased gun control.
We know that the shooter at Virginia Beach used a silencer, or sometimes called a suppressor, to mute the noise from the gun as it went off, and that's usually used to delay the time law enforcement has to respond. The other part that was included in this package of bills that would have made a difference is a ban on high-capacity magazines. It's with great disappointment that not any aspect of that entire bill was even debated.
Every seat in both the Virginia House and Senate will be up for grabs this year. Lawmakers aren't expected to revisit the gun debate until after the election. While Republicans maintain a narrow lead in the legislature, time will tell if this emotional issue could be the tipping point. Amber Strong, CBN News, Washington.
Coming up, the federal government is using facial recognition technology to scan millions of Americans' faces. What that means for you. Next.
Are you suffering from feeling tired or worn out during the day? Can you not turn off your brain at night? You are not alone. Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Bruce, the sleep doctor, and I've partnered with the Christian Broadcasting Network, and we're going to bring you some unbelievable information that you can use tonight to get a better night's rest.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Protect Your Sleep today.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government.
My focus has been trying to really make sure we have the future leaders we need for the bench and the bar and for society generally.
You'll learn from highly credentialed leaders who are current and former judges, distinguished scholars, and ACLJ counsel.
I'm so glad I chose Regent. The relationships here have been amazing. The faculty have been amazing. Not everybody's called to the same thing when they leave law school, but they're called by a God who has a purpose for their lives, and He is going to use that education to make a difference in the world.
Regent will prepare you to be a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer. To start your rewarding law career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July. Apply today.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government. Ready to become a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer? To start your rewarding career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July.
Facial recognition may look like a crime-fighting tool, but it's proving to be pretty controversial on Capitol Hill. This following reports that ICE is using the technology to mine driver's licenses without the public's knowledge.
Today, lawmakers question its safety and accuracy. CBN News national security correspondent Eric Phillips joins us with more. Eric?
Well, John and Jenna, biotechnology isn't new. Fingerprints and DNA analysis have been around for a long time. The new concern is using facial recognition without a person's knowledge or consent.
Today's latest tech has been featured in sci-fi movies for decades.
This is Captain James Kirk of the USS Enterprise.
Good evening, John. You can move the old-fashioned. Now, life wildly imitates art when faces and pictures we post on social media are instantly recognized. For some, it's frightening. On Capitol Hill, skepticism about facial recognition programs being rolled out by Customs and Border Protection and the TSA.
To be clear, CBP is only comparing the picture taken against photos of previously provided by travelers to the U.S. government for the purposes of international travel. This is not a surveillance program.
Perhaps not, but the technology has some flaws.
Age, race, and sex. There are demographic effects. Quantifying those in a statistically valid manner is what we're currently doing.
So is that women and dark-skinned people?
Yes.
To better illustrate this, an ACLU study used facial recognition to compare members of Congress with 25,000 arrest photos.
That software incorrectly matched 28 members with individuals who had criminal records. Although the misidentified members included both Democrats and Republicans, men and women, and a wide range of ages, Nearly 40% of the false matches were people of color. This is unacceptable.
New safeguards are now in place after a computer hack exposed information that, in the wrong hands, could lead to those deep fakes you've heard all about.
Our main network has these protocols on them, but we didn't have them on this type of system.
Experts believe issues with picture quality will improve over time. And what about privacy? ICE has been comparing driver's licenses in 3 states against their records without public knowledge.
I do not believe that anyone has a reasonable expectation of privacy in a government ID photo, period.
When it comes to identifying criminals, some say the benefits of the technology outweigh the negatives.
Effective facial recognition technologies can improve law enforcement by ridding this process of bias and human error.
The National Institute of Standards and Technology is performing a comprehensive analysis on facial recognition where these demographic issues are concerned. Those results should be out this coming fall. In Washington, I'm Eric Phillips. Back to you.
Thanks, Eric. When we come back, New York City holds a ticker tape parade for America's latest world champions. That's next.
Prophecy thousands of years old,
We were called to be a light to the world.
being fulfilled today. Discover how. Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life. Just call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he have, which color he is. This is what I'm doing.
See how the people of Israel are fulfilling prophecy
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
by sharing their knowledge
In Africa, in Asia, in South America, in East Europe.
and their love.
This is how we work. This is us.
Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
Divisive politics aside, Americans are united around a national victory. Right. Today, thousands throng New York City to celebrate the U.S. women's national soccer team in their World Championship victory.
The victors in the 2019 FIFA Women's World Cup beat the Netherlands 2-0. And the traditional ticker tape parade in the Big Apple, welcoming them home, lasted some 3 hours. The U.S. women's team scored a record 13 goals in this year's World Cup, and Sunday's victory marks the 4th time the dominant women's team has hoisted the gold trophy. Got a little tongue-tied there. So excited for the team.
No kidding. Major congratulations.
That's right. Well, that's going to do it for tonight's Faith Nation.
Have a great evening.